Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Taya here. Do you want to see how I made this beautiful two-piece set? Tell me this is not beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. I'll be showing you how I draft this beautiful two-piece in this video. Stick around, and if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe for more amazing videos like this one. Now let's bounce. So guys, this is a drafting aspect of this tutorial, and in this one we are going to be drafting the short first. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to create my top margin. Now for this top margin we are going to be using 3 inches. We are going to be using 3 inches for the top margin, so go ahead and mark 3 inches from the top of your paper and make a roll across with a straight ruler. From the side here, I'm going to be measuring 5 inches inside. Now go ahead and measure 5 inches inside like this and roll on it with a straight ruler. These measurements for the margin lines for both top and side, they are constant. So do the same thing on your pattern and roll on it with a straight line. Now once I'm through with that, I'm going to be getting my crotch line. Now to get my crotch line, I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4. So from the top here, from the top margin line there, I'm going to mark my 10 inches, which is my hip measurement divided by 4. I'm going to measure it again in order to have a straight line, and with my straight ruler, I'm going to roll on it. Please go ahead and divide your hip into 4, whatever you have, and measure it on your paper. So I'm going to be naming that my crotch line. That is my crotch line. So now the next thing that I'll be doing again is that I'll be measuring that same 10 inches. I'll be starting my measurements from the side margin line there, and I'll mark my 10 inches again. This is going to help me create a box for my pattern. Once I'm through with that, I'm going to roll on it with my straight ruler again. So now this is our starting point, which is also the waistline. So from there, I'm going to measure my waist to hip measurement. My waist to hip is 8 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark it here again and roll on it with a straight line. Please go ahead and do the same thing on your pattern. And there I'll call this my hip line. So the next thing I'll be doing is that on my crotch line here, I'm going to be dividing my hip measurement into 20. So my hip divided by 20, that gives me around 2 inches. So I'm going to measuring 2 inches from this line. From this line here, I'll be measuring 2 inches. Now I'll go on my hip line there, and I'll measure 1/4 of an inch. From that point, I'll measure 1/4 of an inch there, and on my waistline, which is on the top there, I'm going to be marking 1/2 of an inch from this line. 1/2 of an inch, that is what I'll be marking, and I'll be making a point there, and with my curve, I'm going to connect these 3 points together to get my crotch curve. Please arrange your curve very perfectly for you to get a very smooth curve. Don't do this with your free hand, do it with your curve. Now there I have my front crotch, because we are dealing with the front now. From this point here, I'm going to measure what I have up to this point, and I'm going to be dividing it into 2 equal halves. So from this front crotch here, I'll measure up to this point, divide it into 2, and whatever I have, I'm going to make a point there. So I'm going to determine the length of my short. Now for this one, I'm going to be using 15 inches. Now from the top here, I'm going to measure 15 inches, and I'll come to the side here again and measure 15 inches, and I'm going to be rolling on it with a straight line. You can do something longer or you can do something shorter. This is depend on your preference. Now I'm going to be calling this the finish length. Now the points I will make earlier on the crotch line, I'm going to extend it up to the finish length here with a straight line. Now from this point here, from this second point here, I'm going to be measuring my waist divided by 4, my quarter waist. I'm not starting it from the straight line, I'm starting from the second line that we have here, and I'm going to be marking my quarter waist divided by 4, and with my curve I'm going to be connecting it with my hip line. Please go ahead and do the same thing on your pattern. Now we are done for the front. Now we are going to start taking in the back measurement. Yes, I'll be drafting both the front and back together on this pattern. Now here I'm just extending the line that I have on the crotch down to the finished length. You can do this as well. Now for the back measurements, from here, from this point that I'm touching here, I'm going to be marking 1 inch from this line here. Please watch what I'm doing. It is not confusing. This is very straightforward. Now on the top here, I'm going to be marking 2 inches from this straight line here. I'm going to be marking 2 inches. Now I'll be connecting these 2 points together with a straight line, and I'm going to be extending it upward just like that. Now the next thing that I'll be doing now is that I'm going to divide my hip measurements into 10. My hip measurement is divided by 10, and from this point that I'm touching here, I'm going to measure what I have forward from this point right here. My hip divided by 10, that gives me 4 inches, and I'm going to mark it forward. Now on this point here that I'm touching in my video, I'm going to measure 1/4 inch forward. As you can see, please watch what I'm doing. 1/4 inch forward, and I'm going to be connecting these 2 points together with my curve, and this is going to be serving as my back crotch cuff. Now the next thing that I'll be doing now is that on my waistline here, I'm going to mark my 1/4 hip measurement. This is supposed to be my 1/4 waist measurement, but because I want the bag to have an elastic, I'm going to just measure my 1/4 hip measurement. Now if you do not want an elastic at the back, you can just go ahead and measure your 1/4 waist measurement, but because of the elastic that I want at the back, I'm going to be measuring my 1/4 hip measurement. Now from this point here that I'm touching in my video, I'm going to measure my hip measurements divided by 4 again. So I'll measure it on this line and I'll make a point there. This is me just extending my line backward, and I'm just going to be connecting these 2 points together with my curve, and that is going to be serving as my back hip, exactly like that. So the next thing that I'll be doing now is that on this line that I'm touching in my video, I'm going to be go up by 1 inch. You can do this if you want, and you can just skip it if you don't. This is totally optional. So I'm just going to go up by 1 inch, and I'm going to be connecting it with my straight line into my back hip curve like that. So the next thing that I'll be doing now is that I'm going to go in by 1 inch from this line. What I'm doing right now is to shape my leg, the leg of my shirt. So I'm going to be going inside by 1 inch, and I'm just going to be connecting it up to this point for the front leg shaping. Now that is not part of my work for the front. Now on this side here, I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'll go in by 1 inch, and I'm going to be connecting it to my front crotch cuff with a straight line, and this also is not part of my work for the front. Now for the back, I'm going to shape my back leg as well. From this point that I'm touching here, I'm just going to measure 1/2 inch backward to the back. From this point here, I'll measure 1/2 inch backward. So I'm just going to be connecting it to my back hip with a straight line. So I'm going to be connecting it to my back hip line with a straight line. And on the crotch here is again from this point that I'm touching, from this point right here, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch backward again, and I'm going to be connecting it with my back crotch. Yes, this is my back crotch. Remember, we made a point there, so I'll be connecting these 2 points together as well with a straight line. And there we are done. We are done drafting this short. Yes, this is not a freehand method. It is a standard way of drafting your short. So I'm going to be separating my front pattern from the back pattern. Remember, we drafted both the front and the back pattern together. So now I'm just going to be folding my paper into 2 like this, and I'm going to be tracing the back out. We are tracing the back out. So from here to here, that is my back. Please, from here to here again is my back, from here to here is my back, and to here. So those are my back. Please watch what I am tracing out. This can be somehow confusing or tricky, but if you concentrate with what I'm doing, you're going to get exactly where to trace out. So I'm tracing out that side. I'm going to be tracing out the hip, the back hip. We are tracing out the back, so I'll be tracing out the back hip like that. I'll go to the waist. I'll trace out the back waist. Yes, that is the back waist. I'll be tracing this out, and from here again I'll go ahead and trace out my back crotch. Yes, I'm going to be following this line. Please go ahead and follow this line on your pattern. Do not make any mistake. You can watch this again if you are confused, but it is not confusing if you are patient with it. And there we are done tracing out our back. So what I'm going to be doing now is to cut. I'm going to be cutting out the bottom parts together. I'm going to be cutting out the bottom back together like this, and when I'm done, I'm going to separate my paper. So this is my back right here. I'm going to be tracing it out with my pen and my ruler for you guys to see. And so guys, this is my back, and I'm just going to be cutting it out exactly like this. Please do the same thing for your back pattern and cut it out exactly like you see me doing in the video. So guys, I'm done cutting it, and I'm going to be setting it aside and work on the front pattern. So now I'm going to be cutting out the front pattern as well. So the part that I'm touching is for the front, and that is where we are going to be cutting out. So please watch carefully how I am cutting it, and cut out your pattern exactly like you see me doing in the video. And then I'll cut through the front waistline. This is not part of my work. I'll continue to cut through the front crotch cuff, and this is my front crotch cuff. I'll cut up to this point, and I'll follow this line, and that is it. That is my front short pattern. So that is my front, and this right here is my back. So I'm going to be using these two patterns to cut on my fabric, and I'll show you guys. So guys, this is my back pattern. I'm going to be cutting out the back pattern first, and I'm just going to be arranging my pattern very well. I'll be leaving some allowances at the side crotch area, the waist area, and at the side here. So remember that the pattern for the back is not straight, so I'm just going to be arranging it in such a way that the top is not straight, it is kind of bent. Remember, we came up by 1 inch on the back crotch, so that is why the waistline is not going to be straight, but the down part here is going to be straight. So when you are doing this, just make sure that the finished length of your back is straight. The top is not going to be straight. Now I'm going to be leaving 1 inch sewing allowance for the side, 1 inch sewing allowance for the side, 1.5 inch for the down part, and half of an inch for the waistline, and half of an inch for the crotch line. So this is me just trying to measure 1.5 inches for the down part. So that is going to be what I'm going to use to hem my shorts at the end of the day. So this is me just cutting it out. Please go ahead and do the same thing on your pattern. So guys, once I'm done doing that, I'm going to be setting this aside and work on my front pattern. So this is me just trying to arrange my fabric very well, and I'll be placing my pattern on it like this. So just make sure that you're not wasting fabric, and arrange your fabric very well. So I'm going to be leaving some allowances at the top, half inch stitching allowance for the waistline, and I'll be leaving some at the side and at the crotch area as well. So I'm just going to be pinning my pattern down to my fabric to secure it so that it is not it is not shifting. So I'll be pinning it down with my pin, and I'm going to start cutting now. So for the down part, again, I'm going to be using 1.5-inch stitching allowance for the down part. So I'm going to be marking it like that. You can use 1 inch if you want, but I just want 1.5-inch, and I'm just going to be cutting it out and cut out every other part of this pattern. And there, guys, I have my fabric ready, and that is how it's just going to be looking like. So that is my back and this is my front. I'm going to set this aside now and work on my top pattern. So guys, my pattern is ready, and I've created my top and side margin line with 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to be marking my armhole line, and to get that, I'm going to be dividing my bust measurement into 4. So I'm going to come here again and make a point. My bust measurement divided by 4, I have 24.5, and that is what I marked, and I'm going to be connecting these 2 points together with a straight line. Go ahead and divide your bust into 4 and take in your measurement. And I'm just going to be labeling this my armhole line. From this top margin line again, I'm going to measure my shoulder to waist measurement. My shoulder to waist measurement is 52 cm. I'm going to make a point there, and I will also take in my blouse length. For this, I'm going to be using 68 cm. All my measurements for this top pattern will be in cm. So I'm going to come here to the other side as well, and I'll mark my shoulder to waist and my blouse length. And I'm going to be connecting these points together with a straight line. So guys, once I'm through marking all of that, I'm going to come to the top here and measure my half back measurement. Now for this, I'm going to be using 7.5 inches for my half back measurement. So from the top here, I'm going to mark what I have. Please divide your back measurement into 2 and take in your measurement. So that is what I have. And for my neck width for the front, I'm going to be using 3 inches, and for the neck depth for the front as well, I'm going to be using 3 inches. And with my curve, I'm going to be connecting these 2 points together. You can use your free hand if you want, but I'm just going to be using my curve ruler to connect these 2 points together. And for the back, I'm going to be drafting the front and the back together. For the back, the only thing that is going to be different is the neck depth. The neck width are the same, but the neck depths are different. So for the neck depth for the back, I'm going to be using 1/2 inch. I'm going to be using 1 inch for my neck depth for the back. So I'm just going to be connecting these 2 points together. Now these measurements for the neck are the original neck measurements. They are not the measurements I'm going to be using later on in the video, but they are just the original measurements. Now the next thing that I'll be doing is that I'm going to be measuring my half back width again on this armhole line. I'm going to be making a point there, and I'm going to be connecting these 2 points together like that. And the next thing that I'll be doing now is to take in my body measurement. Now to do that, on my armhole line, I'm going to be dividing my bust measurement into 4. Now from here, I'm going to be measuring my 24.5 cm for my bust measurements divided into 4. And on my waistline, I'm going to be marking my quarter waist measurement. My waist measurement divided into 4. Whatever I get, I'm going to be making a point there. And on my blouse length line as well, I'm going to be marking my hip measurements divided by 4. So for this I have 10 inches, and I'm just going to be connecting all those points together. Please watch carefully how I am placing my curve. I'm not using the straight ruler for this. I'm using the curvy part of my ruler, and that is how I'm going to be connecting it to the waist, and to the hip I'm going to flip my ruler over just like you see in the video and connect the points together. So now we're almost done. The next thing I'll be doing now is to get my armhole curve. Now to do this, on my back line here that I have, I'm going to measure what I have, and I'm going to be dividing it into 2 equal halves, and I'm going to be making a point there. Please go ahead and do the same thing on your pattern. So once I'm done making a point there, the next thing that I'll be doing now is to use my curve ruler and just slope it into the points that I have here on my armhole line. Please note that I did not slope in my shoulder. This is because I want my shoulder to have that straight effect. So the next thing that I'll be doing now, because the pattern that I'm making is not a fitted one, I'll be using 1.5 inches for my ease allowance, and on my armhole line I'll mark 1.5 inches, not in cm, inches. On my waistline as well, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches, and on my blouse length line I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches allowance, and this is going to be serving as my ease allowance. You can use 2 inches if you want. You can use 2.5 depending on how big you want your top to be. But for me, I'm okay with 1.5 inches for the ease allowance, and this is going to be serving for both the front and for the back. And with my ruler again, I'm going to be connecting all those points together just like we did previously. Now on the armhole curve, I'm just going to be sloping my armhole curve into the back line that I have. So I'm just placing my ruler very perfectly and connect it into my back line. So guys, we are almost done. Now the next thing I'll be doing now is to get the neckline that I want. Now for my width, for my neck width, I'm going to be marking 1 inch from the original measurements that I have earlier. And for the neck depth, I'm going to be marking half of an inch. I'm going to be marking half of an inch from the front. You can see this is the front. I'm going to be marking half of an inch. And with my curve, I'm going to be connecting these 2 points together with my curve. Can you see? So that is going to be serving as my new front neck. So once I'm through with that, I'm going to work on the back. Now for the back neck width, I'm going to be using the same measurements for the front, but for the back neck depth, I'm going to come down from the original back neck depth that I have by 1.5 inches, sloping it into my neck width. So this is the new neckline that I'll be working with for both front and for the back. So now we are done drafting, and the next thing that I'll be doing now is to cut out my pattern. Please take note that I did not input any dart allowance. This is because this is a free dress and it does not include any dart allowance. Please, if you follow the same thing that I do in this pattern, you are going to get exactly what I have in this video. So go ahead and cut out your pattern. Please watch carefully how I am cutting out my pattern. I'm going to come here on the second line that I have. I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to be following the shape that I have. Now on the neckline area, I'm going to be cutting on the new back neck that I have. So because we are cutting both the front and the back together, so I'll be cutting on the new back neckline that I have. Please don't make that mistake and cut on the front. So now I have my pattern ready, and I'm just going to be using this to cut on my fabric. So guys, this is my pattern on my fabric, and I'm just cutting it out, and I left some sewing allowance. Now for the down part, I left about 3 inches for the stitching allowance at the hemming part, and this is because I have drawstring, just little drawstring effect at the side of my pattern, so at the side of my top rather. So that is why I leave about 3 inches. If you want something longer, you can use about 6 to 7 inches, but for this I'm just going to be using 3 inches because I don't want it to be too long. So now this is my back pattern, and I'm just going to be removing my pattern from my fabric, and we are going to be cutting on the front now. So I'm going to be cutting out the back neck that I have here. So this is my front pattern now, and I'm just going to arrange it on my fabric and use it to cut. So guys, I'm going to be leaving about 3 inches again for the front here, and I'm going to be cutting out my pattern. And for the side, I'm going to be leaving about 1 inch stitching allowance. On the armhole, I'm going to be leaving half of an inch. On the shoulder, I'm going to be leaving half of an inch, and on the neck area, I'm going to be leaving half of an inch as well. So guys, I have both my front and back fabric ready now, and the next thing I'll be showing you guys is how to cut facing for both front and the back. So guys, I have these pieces of fabric right here. I'm going to be folding it into two. On the wrong side, the right sides are facing each other, and that is the wrong side. So I'm going to be placing my fabric on it like that. I'll make sure that the sides are matching very perfectly, and I'm just going to be securing it down so that it does not shift. Now I'm going to be cutting on it without leaving any stitching allowance. I'm just going to be cutting exactly where my original fabric stops. So I'll cut through the shoulder and through the armhole and stop somewhere around the cuff like that, and I'm going to be removing my fabric, and I'm just going to be leaving about 6 inches from the neck area here. From the neck area, I'm just going to be coming down by 6 inches for this, and this is because we have a little opening at the chest area. So from there, I'll come down by 6 inches, and I'm just going to be cutting it straight like that. And when I get to the end of it like here, I'm just going to be cutting it and just sloping it straight into the shoulder. The shoulder needs to match with the original fabric that we have. So that is the facing for the front, and I'm going to be cutting the facing for the back as well. So the same thing we did for the front is what I'm going to be doing for the back. I'm going to fold my pieces into two right sides facing each other, and I'm going to be placing my fabric on top of it like this. I'll make sure that the sides that is on folds are matching, and I'm going to cut it out without leaving any allowance. I'm going to cut through the shoulder, and I'm going to cut through the armhole like this and stop somewhere around the middle. Now for the length of this facing, I'm going to be using about 3 inches for the length of this facing. You can use 2 inches if you want, but I'm going to be using 3 inches for this, and I'm just going to be cutting it out exactly like this. And from here, I'm just going to cuff it like you see me doing in the video. So this is my back facing. Now in my next video, I'm going to be showing you how to stitch all of this together to have that perfect fit that you see me wearing.